Thank you. Along with Scott, can you hear that? I'm considered one of the controversial speakers today. After Scott and me, it's all downhill. As you know, when this was put on by the coalition of Tea Parties, a couple of Tea Parties decided that the so-called social issues must not be discussed at any Tea Party event because this might happen. They didn't want to have that happen to them. So they said only fiscal issues, limited government, and the like are legitimate subjects. And along with these people, they tried to shut down this by intimidating some of the speakers. When they couldn't do that, they set up their own taxes-only event, which you can pretty much bet that this gang isn't at in Worcester, because they're afraid of the liberal media and all of these people. Now, as you all know, I've talked at Tea Parties across the state. So let's look at a little perspective, ladies and gentlemen. A few blocks away from here,
not like they are,
they're the police over there. Going Parcheesi or something. Officer, over here! Just a few blocks away from here, on December 16, 1773, the real Tea Party took place. And everybody knew then that it wasn't about paying a tax on tea. It was about control, but particularly it was about oppression. And if you read the Declaration of Independence that was written just 2.5 years later, they don't mention anything about fiscal policy or budgets. It's about rebellion against oppression. The Declaration of Independence uses words like evils and tyranny and despotism and abuses and usurpations, and talks about the protection of divine providence. They do mention taxes, but in the context of how taxes are used to oppress people. They understood that taxes and fiscal policy are a product of problems and not a cause. And after the hard and bloody war for independence, Thomas Jefferson and others said very clearly that to continue as a free society, the people's resistance against tyranny must be ongoing. In our age, the oppressor isn't the English crown or the Tories, but the people right here, the progressives, the liberals, the socialists, the cultural radicals, those who don't want you to speak or to have rights. The things like high taxes to pay for the goodies and the bloated governments and things like Obamacare aren't a fiscal problem. It's an ideologically and ultimately a moral problem. These new tyrants who don't want you to be heard want to use your tax money to break down the family structure, which makes it easier for the welfare state to thrive, to take your freedoms away, and to subvert your children in horrible ways without your consent. The so-called social issues, which they think are such poison, are their way of changing society. And that's why they get so enraged when you challenge them here. Do you see these people who have come and mingled with us? Why do you think they came here on a Sunday afternoon? They came to harass and to silence and disrupt this event. If we didn't pose a threat to them, they wouldn't be here. And let me tell you something else. I think the Boston police are acting in a disgraceful way. Yes. There is a permit to be had here, and they're allowing these people to disrupt it. They're allowing them to come through and harass individuals. They're allowing to come right up, and they're just standing right there. You can bet your life that if it were the other way around, as it was when the Occupy people were running around town, that it would be 100% different, as we saw. Thank you, Mayor Menino, and thank you, Boston Police, for upholding the rights of Americans. And of course, they really don't like us, and I'll tell you one big reason why. Our organization, Mass Resistance, has been active in Massachusetts around the country for 17 years. Columnist Howie Carr calls us a hardcore pro-family group. We help citizens fight back against government attacks on the family and for the rights of individuals with traditional values. From back in 1995, when we pushed the Parents' Notification Law through the Massachusetts legislature, where these same people didn't want parents to have notification, to this past summer when we led the national pressure in Congress to force Obama's Safe Schools czar Kevin Jennings out of office. And earlier this year, when we were supporting citizens in state houses in Maryland, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire, we've been on the forefront of activism that's very unpopular with the liberal establishment and those people who are here to subvert your rights. And among other things, we expose and help parents confront the graphic and disturbing taxpayer-funded homosexual and now transgender programs targeting kids in the schools, which is aggressively pushed on vulnerable children by a lot of the people here without parents' consent or knowledge around the country. The latest push by that movement is to form gay clubs in the middle schools and indoctrination sessions in kindergarten and first grade, where they brag that kids are easy to reach because they are just forming their ideas about life. A few weeks ago, the homosexual activist group GLSEN, which uses teachers and school administrators in schools to promote the homosexual clubs in schools, had their annual conference not too far from here in Cambridge. GLSEN gets nearly $500,000 from the federal government and also enormous funding through our state government. There were kids there from high school age to as young as 9 years old. They were being handed homosexual sex pamphlets and devices for safe homosexual sex acts. And we have some of those that kids picked up. We'll be having them on our website at massresistance.org so you can see them and you can hear from the people who were there inside. In one of the workshops, a kindergarten teacher talked about how she teaches the kids in her class to internalize transgenderism, that a man they see might actually be a woman. So these kindergartners shouldn't stereotype. That's what they're teaching them. I'm not kidding. I talked to the people who were there and heard it. This is what is coming into your schools from this movement using your money. And this is why they are here to shut us down. In the coming year, the new Massachusetts state budget is giving upwards of over $1 million of your tax money to these programs in the schools. Most of it is given to a bizarre group called the Commission for Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender Youth. They get probably over $1 million this year, which is led by a man in a dress and a woman with a beard with her breasts surgically amputated, where they go to schools and give these programs to kids using your tax money. We're the major pro-family group fighting this. All the others are afraid of being harassed, and you can see why. But we're not afraid, and you shouldn't be either. All you need to do, ladies and gentlemen, all you need to do is look in the eyes of some of the mothers and fathers whose children have been victimized and scarred by these state-run programs as we have. And if this is considered divisive and unfit for discussion at a tea party, something's very wrong. So as you can imagine, there are people that hate us and people that really like us. Alan Keyes once came to Boston just to do a fundraiser for us. Phyllis Schlafly gave me an award and had me speak at her annual convention. Michael Reagan called our organization a Great American Group and offered to give me a personal tour of the Reagan Ranch. A few years ago when I ran into Mike Huckabee and introduced myself, he said, "I know, I get your mail, your emails." You can get them too, by the way, if you come to our massresistance.org. Yeah, I'm just finishing up. I don't want to go 40 minutes like some of these guys. Congressman Louis Gohmert's Texas colleague, Representative Michael Burgess, used our materials for a congressional resolution. And we are well hated by the left, not just these people, just Google us. The George Soros group Media Matters did a series of articles bashing us. The Boston media can't stand us, and they don't like us in the State House because we keep reminding them what they're really doing. So, I want to go back to that other Tea Party that has been relentlessly attacking this event and called us divisive. They put out an email, which I found very interesting. They said, there's no room for this at a Tea Party rally. We have good relationships with elected officials and respectful relationships with the Boston, Massachusetts, and national media. That's why they didn't want speakers like me and Scott Lively. Well, can you imagine Samuel Adams and John Hancock worried about being too divisive and ruining their good relationships with the British Crown and the Tory newspapers? I don't think so. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that the pressure and harassment and intimidation is so overwhelming that you're sometimes tempted to just give up and fall into line and give up your rights and have an easier time of life. You sure know that the police aren't with you and the government isn't with you. Don't do it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't give up. Remember the brave men at that original Tea Party just a few blocks from here who fought and died in the revolution for your right to be here today and fight back. And they're warning to you about keeping your freedoms. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian Camenker. Proud to be a member